Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com, as well as the YouTube channel and NoDQ&A videos affiliate, ringsidenews.com. Make sure you stay tuned to NoDQ.com for all the latest breaking news, and trust me, there is no shortage of breaking news this week. NoDQ.com, that is your source for all the very latest. With that being said, let's get down to your questions. First one today comes from KL Adams. Should Chris Jericho get one more title reign, even if it is just for one day, and does he get a retirement match? I would say, yeah, why not have Jericho be the world champion one last time? Now, I've gotten a few questions from people about Jericho possibly winning the WWE title before he goes off on his next hiatus to perform with Fozzy. I would say that if Jericho is going to be world champion one last time, then let him do it when he is at the start of a long run, not when he's finishing up a run. And quite frankly, I think right now it's best to not have Kevin Owens lose the title. WWE could do something where Jericho beats Owens for the title and then loses it the next night on Raw back to Owens. They could do that at Hell in the Cell, but I really feel it would be better for Jericho to take his break, come back, and then win the title and have one last run, one last solid run as champion, rather than it just be like a one-day title reign. I think that's silly. And yes, I do feel he should get a retirement match. Jericho has really proven himself as one of the greatest performers of the past 20, 30 years, maybe in the entire history of the wrestling business. Jericho absolutely should get a big retirement and a big send-off when he's finally ready to call it a career. Got this one here from Samson. Do you think WWE should have Cesaro quit Raw and pop up on Smackdown in a time in the future, not immediately? Yes, I feel that that would be a good thing to do for Cesaro, to let him go on SmackDown and have a fresh new start. Maybe he could debut new entrance music on SmackDown, maybe change up his entrance a little bit, just do something different. That would be a great opportunity to make some changes for Cesaro and let him have a new environment to perform in, a change of pace. Right now, he's got the thing going on with Sheamus, and that could be a storyline for the next couple of months, but once that is finished, I would absolutely consider having Cesaro go to SmackDown. And WWE's already teasing it by having Daniel Bryan tweet out that he wants to know when Cesaro's contract is going to be up, and Cesaro responded to him. So yeah, I would like to see it happen at some point. It would make more sense, and considering that Daniel Bryan is the GM in the storyline, it would make more sense, as Daniel Bryan would be the kind of guy that would understand Cesaro more than perhaps even Mick Foley, definitely Stephanie. Yeah, I think it would be a great idea at some point, but not right away, not when this whole Sheamus-Cesaro storyline is going on. And speaking of that storyline, from Nicholas, do you think Sheamus and Cesaro will be the ones to beat New Day? Probably not. It's looking like New Day is going to break Demolition's record. I do not see Sheamus and Cesaro being a long-term thing. Now, who knows? If this catches on and becomes a hot act and they become the most popular odd couple group in WWE history, then maybe they would beat New Day. But I think New Day is going to break Demolition's record, and if that's the case, I do not see anybody beating New Day until the end of the year. Maybe not even until early 2017. So if Cesaro and Sheamus last that long as a team, then maybe. But I think a team like Revival would be more fitting to beat the New Day once they're called up to the main roster. So probably not, unless in the next couple weeks Sheamus and Cesaro become the hottest act in the company. I do not see it happening. Got this one here from Gaming King Entertainment. Hey Aaron, why is Seth Rollins still using the pedigree, and do you think Sheamus and Cesaro could become a good team? Regarding Seth Rollins using the pedigree, it's because of the Triple H storyline, and I'm assuming once Triple H comes back, he'll say something along the lines of, I want my move back, you're not allowed to use it anymore. It's really weird that Triple H has not come out already and said he does not want Seth Rollins using his move anymore because it's an embarrassment to him, since Rollins is an embarrassment to the Authority. But nothing has been mentioned along those lines. Nothing from Triple H. So we have Seth Rollins going out there and using the pedigree. The whole storyline's a little strange. You would think that there would be some sort of explanation from Triple H, and you would think Seth Rollins would be pissed off about Triple H turning on him and would not use the pedigree anymore. I really don't get it. Cannot really explain it at all. And going back to Sheamus and Cesaro, I think they'll be a good team based off of Raw. I mean, I was entertained by the whole Odd Couple thing. Will it become as memorable as Daniel Bryan and Kane? That remains to be seen, but, you know, I'll give it time. We'll see if it catches on over the next couple weeks, and maybe this will be a really hot act. Like I said, maybe it'll exceed all expectations, and maybe they will be the next tag team champions. Got this one from the Great Turbonian. What is the WWE doing with Sami Zayn? He wasn't on Raw and continues to lose matches. I wish I could tell you. It just comes down to the creative team not knowing what to do with the guy. Sami Zayn is a great talent, one of the best in my opinion in the entire company, but they do not want to push him as a main eventer. And despite him putting on main event performances and getting main event pops, he is getting over more than they want him to get over. And they see him at a certain level. They see him as a good little workhorse that can work the upper mid-card matches. You know, they see him as the B-plus player like Daniel Bryan. And I think Zayn could be like the new Daniel Bryan, a guy who is able to succeed despite being held down. And that's what it feels like now. It feels like he's getting over just a little bit more than the company wants him to get over. And that's why they're not putting him on television, because, you know, out of sight, out of mind. And the longer he's off television, the more he'll cool off. And maybe that's what WWE wants. They want him to be hot. They want him to sell merchandise, but they do not want him to be too hot to where fans get to the point where they're doing what they did with Daniel Bryan and they start hijacking shows and doing all that stuff, and WWE has to consider changing their plans because of the fan reaction. So, you know, I think it's just WWE trying to control things a little bit, you know, because that's what they do best. They control the show. This one comes from Last Man Sitting. Is WWE deliberately holding off clearing Paige from injury because they want rid of her? I don't think so. WWE is very cautious about the well-being of their performers now. And I think when it comes to Paige, they just do not want to risk her getting hurt. She comes back too soon, she gets hurt, and that makes things even worse. That gives her some leverage. If she came back right away and got hurt, she could use that against them and use that as a way to get out of her contract. So they're not going to take a chance in that regard. I really doubt that they're purposely keeping her off television just because of the whole Del Rio thing and Paige being suspended and all that. I think she's legitimately hurt, and that's why they're keeping her off television. Got this one here from BrokenTime Marshall. Should Anderson and Gallows leave WWE and go back to New Japan because what WWE is doing to them is embarrassing? If things keep going the way they are for them, then maybe that is a good option for them. I think it depends on what they're making also. If they're making good money in WWE right now, then there's no need for them to leave and go back to New Japan unless they're really unhappy creatively. If they're very unhappy with their spot in the company, then that is something they will have to consider. If being happy is more important than money, maybe they should go back to New Japan where they would be utilized better. But that's up to them. Right now, it's not looking good for them. They lost not only at the pay-per-view, but they lost again to the New Day, and it feels like they're just going nowhere at this point. Got this one here from PushPal. Hey Aaron, if crowds really want entertaining wrestling, then why cruiserweight matches are not getting much reactions? The problem is that most of the casual fans are not watching the Cruiserweight Classic. I mean, even myself, I was not watching a lot of the Cruiserweight Classic matches just because I have so many other things to watch and it was hard for me to keep up with. So if you imagine a more casual viewer who might watch Raw and SmackDown and maybe watch some of the network, you know, the Cruiserweight Classic is not going to be at the top of the list for your casual fans to watch. It's gotten rave reviews, people love it, but at the end of the day, you need to have these characters established on television, and they really need the characters to be established. The characters need to be clearly defined and not just random guys coming out there and having matches. If you do that, it's not going to work. It is sports entertainment. You need to have some kind of character development and storylines and a reason for the fans to care about what they're seeing, not just two guys going out there and having wrestling matches, and two guys that a lot of the fans aren't really that familiar with, if they're familiar with the character at all. Got this one here from BlitzTeam. Hey Aaron, if Raw gets the Money in the Bank pay-per-view exclusively, should WWE book a Money in the Bank ladder match for SmackDown at WrestleMania? I like that idea. I think WWE should do that. They should have the single-branded Money in the Bank pay-per-view. I think it's Raw at this point. I'm not sure exactly, though. And if you do that, have SmackDown get their Money in the Bank match at WrestleMania, and that way you're able to bring back Money in the Bank at WrestleMania, which I thought was a great addition to the WrestleMania pay-per-views, and I like that better than just doing a random ladder match for the IC title or the US title or whatever. I'm all for that. I think that that is a great idea, and I would definitely consider doing that if I was WWE. This one comes from Austin West. Was a nice change to kick off Raw with a US title match as opposed to the usual 15-minute GM promo. Your thoughts? Well, the idea behind it was to get Roman Reigns out there during the first hour, which was the most watched hour of Raw this week, especially because of the debates. The debates really took a chunk out of the second and third hour of Raw, and I think that was the intention, for Roman Reigns to get out there in the opening segment when the most people are watching. And, you know, by doing the 15-minute GM promo, that very well could have just turned off fans quicker. And by doing the long match, they did a 30-minute match, they were trying to get as many people watching that for as long as possible before people got tired of that and then tuned in for the debates. So I think it was just a tactic by WWE to get as high of a rating as possible in the first hour. This next one comes from Daniel Jobber. Bill 80 and Barry Darsow still look healthy and good and are not too old. Do you think that they would make good headliners for the Hall of Fame in 2017? Yes, absolutely, 100%. Unfortunately, WWE has not really given them their just dues. Demolition, despite coming in as Road Warrior knockoffs in WWE's version of LOD, they got really over, and they were a very popular tag team, and they did have the longest reign in WWE history as tag team champions. New Day will probably break that record, but still, Demolition was a great tag team. I loved them as a kid. I thought that they were great, and I think it's a shame that WWE has downplayed their success over the years. Once the actual Road Warriors came in, Demolition was quickly phased out. Now, part of that was due to Bill 80's health problems, and they brought in Crush as the substitute, but still, the team really never got the credit that I felt they deserved. So yes, they should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago, and I think next year would be perfect. Have the New Day induct them. That would be great. Got this one here from Brandon Flanagan. Hey Aaron, if WWE buys TNA, will Ring of Honor and Lucha Underground be the official number 2 and number 3, and will you start watching Ring of Honor and Lucha Underground? Yeah, pretty much Ring of Honor and Lucha Underground would be considered number 2 and number 3 by default, but that does not mean I'm going to be following those promotions any more than I have been up to this point. I talked about this earlier. I've been struggling just to keep up with all of WWE's content, including the Cruiserweight Classic. I mean, I only watched the last few episodes and the finale. There's just too much wrestling, and it's hard for me to keep up with. I try to pay close attention to the very important stuff, like Raw, SmackDown, the pay-per-views, and some of the podcasts, like the Stone Cold podcast, and that sort of thing. But Ring of Honor, I like it, but I feel the production quality is not up to par for a major promotion. For me to really consider them as number 2, they would need to really step up their production values and present themselves like a number 2 promotion. I mean, they still have the look of a low-budget, glorified indie promotion. Great wrestling action, but they need to step up their game with the storylines and the characters and their production. Lucha Underground, it's just not my taste. I feel it's too over the top, and it feels like a movie about wrestling, and it's just not something that I personally like. And I really don't feel that it has mainstream potential. So it's not something I'm going to really invest my time in unless I feel, hey, this promotion is going to be the next big thing and they're going to challenge WWE for the top spot. I do not see any potential with Lucha Underground. Just my opinion. And I hope I'm wrong, by the way. I hope that Lucha Underground does become a major phenomenon in the wrestling industry. But realistically, I don't think it's going to happen. That'll do it for this edition of NoDQ&A video. Thanks as always for watching. Again, stay tuned to NoDQ.com for all the latest breaking news, and I will see you guys next time for more.